Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm making Dutch meatloaf. What makes it different from any typical meatloaf? Because we're gonna fill it with smoked Gouda. The Belgian version of meatloaf is called vleesbrood, which translates to meat bread. Makes sense, right? Meat and bread. However, fricandon is also used to refer to it in Dutch. And here's the list of the ingredients for your screenshots, and also will be listed in the description box below. Let's get started. You will need ground beef. I have 2 pounds here. It's 85% lean to 15% fat. Half a cup of plain breadcrumbs, 1 large onion, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter or ghee. Also 1 tablespoon of salt, half a tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper, and half a tablespoon of dry marjoram. You're gonna need 4 eggs. We're gonna need 2 whole eggs for the meatloaf, and 2 egg whites, and 2 egg yolks for the filling. And for that cheesy filling, we're gonna need about 200 grams of smoked Gouda. Gouda is the cheese from Netherlands. And we're gonna need some cheese for decoration. I'm gonna use Edam cheese, 2 bell peppers, 1 green, 1 red, and some fresh rosemary. First, we're gonna mince some large onion. And why I'm saying minced, not chopped, not cut, not sliced, because onion has to be minced relatively fine for the meatloaf, because when the meatloaf is cooked you don't want to bite on the pieces of onion. So I'm gonna use this little chopper here. I'm gonna give it maybe a couple pulses here, and it's gonna mince your onion very well. In a large frying pan, heat up about 2 to 3 tablespoons either butter or ghee. I prefer to use ghee. Then we're gonna heat it up very well and throw in the onion. And the onion has to be browned, not too much, but just like that is fine. And after that, here's an interesting trick here. We're gonna add our breadcrumbs, because whatever butter we have left there and also the juices from the onion are gonna soften our breadcrumbs and give them a little bit of flavor. Then we're gonna transfer this to a bowl and set it aside. Out of 4 eggs that we have, we're gonna use 2 whole eggs and also 2 egg whites for the meatloaf. And then we're gonna use the remaining 2 egg yolks for the filling. I like using the recipes like this when there's absolutely no waste. So everything goes into your product. Slightly whisk egg yolks and egg whites together, so it would be easier to add it to the meatloaf mix. Let's make a cheese filling. So we're gonna use the cheese grater, and we're gonna use that piece of smoked Gouda, which is approximately about 200 grams, maybe a little bit more. You can add less cheese if you want, but I'm gonna use this whole entire cheese here. Just gonna grate it. And then we're gonna use 2 bell peppers, not the whole peppers, maybe just the quarter of a pepper. Just remove all the membranes from the bell peppers, and we're gonna slice it into cubes, because first of all, this is gonna add a really refreshing taste to your filling and also some beautiful colors. So when you slice into your meatloaf, you're gonna see some wonderful things happening there, and it's gonna look pretty anyway. So all of this is gonna go into our cheese filling. And also at the last moment I decided to add just a little bit of fresh parsley, so maybe a tablespoon or so that goes into the filling. And we're gonna add our 2 egg yolks, and the egg yolks are gonna serve as a binder to our filling. First of all, would be easier to transfer it into meatloaf, and it's gonna give it some extra taste too. Out of this piece of Edam cheese, we're gonna cut 3 strips for decoration. And by the way, Edam cheese is also from Holland. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to represent the Dutch cheeses as much as I want in just one simple meatloaf. Now we're gonna start mixing the meatloaf. To our ground beef, add breadcrumbs and fried onions. Also your egg mixture, all the spices, and we're just gonna mix it. So put your gloves on, get your hands in there, and we're gonna have to mix it very well so there are no dry spots in this meatloaf and everything is mixed in evenly. Then we're gonna cover it and put it in the fridge for about 10 minutes so all the flavors can come together. Let me show you what I'm gonna use to bake this meatloaf. I'm gonna use this clay pot from Romer. And the clay pots like this, they need to be soaked in water for at least 30 minutes before you bake in them. So we're gonna put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom of that clay pot and we're gonna brush it. By all means, you can use your loaf pan to bake this meatloaf. That's why it's called meatloaf, because it's baked in a loaf pan. But I've decided I'm gonna use the clay pot. So I'm gonna transfer about 2/3 of the meatloaf mix into that clay pot. Then I'm gonna make like a crater in the center. And that's where the cheese filling is gonna go. If you don't want to use the cheese inside the meatloaf, you can just bake it as is and decorate it with those cheese strips I showed you, and that would be fine too. I'm kind of taking risks here because the cheese is probably gonna ooze out of this meatloaf, but then it's gonna create this cheesy goodness that we can enjoy later. So then we're gonna cover it with a hat with the remaining mix of meatloaf, and we're gonna make some space on the sides, and that's where we're gonna put the rosemary. The rosemary is gonna give this meatloaf the most amazing flavor, and it's just gonna sit there, and also it's gonna be pretty for presentation. Then I'm gonna make the cuts like this on top of the meatloaf, and that's where my cheese bricks are gonna go. They're gonna go right on top of it. Then I'm gonna cover it with the lid, and I'm gonna put it in preheated to 350 degrees oven and bake it for about 1 hour and a half. And of course, you're gonna see some drippings. It's always good to have a little bit of liner in your oven so to catch those drippings. And at the last 5 minutes, we're gonna put it on broil and broil it until the cheese is slightly browned, and then we're ready to serve. So we're gonna serve a piece of this beautiful meatloaf on a nice plate with a side, of course, of mashed potatoes. Then clean your plate. It's all about presentation. And to decorate your plate, just sprinkle a little bit of fresh rosemary on your potatoes and give it a couple shakes of freshly ground black pepper. And that cheese filling that oozed out from our meatloaf, well, guess what? It goes right on top. And it's gonna add so much taste to our meatloaf. And look at this meatloaf. It's absolutely delicious. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.